where we agreed that the government should call a general election to be held on the 8th of June. There should be no general election until 2020.
Conservatives rely on the NHS, work in the NHS, volunteer to help the NHS up and down the country. This party wants to improve the National Health Service for everyone.
The British Red Cross says its volunteers are helping transport patients home in many areas. And it's warning there's what it calls a humanitarian crisis in public hospitals.
We see in our work every day our volunteers supporting people to come out home from hospital or helping prevent admission to hospitals, increasingly chaotic situations where someone might be discharged from hospital without the right preparation, even cases where someone discharged without clothing.
New National Health Service figures show last week 42 A&E departments ordered ambulances to divert to other hospitals, double the number during the same period in 2015. And last month, 50 of the 152 NHS hospital trusts in England had to declare an alert because they couldn't cope with the number of people seeking medical attention.
Obviously, we recognise the pressures that the NHS has been under over the winter. This is not unusual. There are always extra pressures for the NHS over the winter period. But if you look at what has happened in terms of funding for the NHS, of course, we have put that extra funding into the NHS.
Across London, there are issues around hospitals closing, A&Es closing, not enough staff, especially in A&E, in maternity, in the community. So and I'm a GP, a lot of the GPs are struggling to recruit GPs to their practices and to be able to give patients the appointments they need. So there's lots of big issues in London as well as around the country. There's a real beds crisis. Most hospitals have said that they've had bed occupancy rates of 99%, which is far, far too high and quite dangerous. The number of beds has dropped by about 15,000 in the last 5 years and has more than halved over the last 20 years. So we have a real beds crisis, and that's why you're seeing all these people lying on trolleys in A&E because they can't get admitted, there are no beds. The solution is to fund the NHS properly. The NHS is being grossly underfunded and money is being wasted on a privatised system of markets and buying and selling and tendering, when that should all be part of the unified National Health Service that we have had for years and which has served us very, very well.
Today I'm announcing our pledges, or the first set of our pledges for the NHS, which is a pay rise for our nurses, our midwives. It's about safe staffing in our NHS, because I will be the Health Secretary who puts patient safety first, and it's about investing in the training of our NHS staff.
It's about ensuring that this country has a strong and stable government, strong and stable leadership, strong and stable leadership, strong and stable leadership, strong and stable, strong leadership, strong and stable government. Strong and stable government, stronger future, strong and stable government, strong and stable leadership, stronger Britain, strongest country, stronger economy, strong and stable leadership, stronger Britain, stronger future, stronger Britain, strong and stable leadership.
I believe that is the right way to provide this country with the strong, the stable.
In the 34 years since I became a Member of Parliament, as you're probably aware, I've been attacked for what I believe in. But it has not changed my core values. And sadly, many of the problems we faced then are still with us. In 1983, before many in this room were born, I stood up in Parliament for the first time and used my maiden speech to condemn deeply damaging cuts in public services and our precious National Health Service. The tragedy is, I could make the same speech today, and it will once again hold as true today as it did then. Between then and now, I've learned firsthand how the privilege of being a Member of Parliament could help achieve change, profound and lasting change. At the time, then, 1983, young protesters were being shot dead on the streets by the racist apartheid regime in South Africa. Nelson Mandela and hundreds of African National Congress leaders were in prison. The Conservative government refused to impose sanctions on South Africa. They entertained the leaders of the regime and banned protests outside the South African embassy in London. Being a Member of Parliament helped bring attention to that ban and the wider cause of South Africa's liberation, and got a group of us arrested. But the space for people in Britain to organise in support of freedom in South Africa was defended and strengthened. And I realised then that political leaders can, if they want to, create and preserve the space for others to organise and transform countries and their own communities. My role is different now, but there's a common thread. We should act together to overturn unfairness and create a better society. It became my yardstick for measuring the performance of governments going back 3 decades, Labour and Conservative. In that time, I've seen prime ministers and leaders of the opposition come and go. But for all their achievements and their failures, what I didn't see was a sustained attempt to rid this country of what really holds people back. I never heard a clear invitation for everyone in the country to work together and create a real alternative to our rigged economy. So when I was asked to put my name forward in Labour's 2015 leadership election, I felt I should step up. I didn't expect to win. But under my leadership, we've forced the Conservatives into one U-turn after another over cuts to tax credits, disability payments, and their recent attempt to increase national insurance for the self-employed. And I respect my critics when they make a reasoned case. They are doing what I've often tried to do, and that is to challenge leadership. It reminds me of the 1990s, when the political mainstream bought in the Conservative ideas about markets, finance, and the economy. It ultimately left us with no defence against a global financial crisis that had its roots in another country's housing market, the subprime mortgage crisis in the USA. Again, it taught me that if leaders go unchallenged, they can make some of the most damaging mistakes. And if party leaders put themselves ahead of serving the people, they stop listening and even put our country at risk. Barely 9 months into Theresa May's premiership, there are clear warning signs that she and her closest advisors are slipping into that presidential bunker mentality. Whereas it is the job of leadership to hold open the space for dissent, new thinking, and fit-for-purpose policy. So while it might not be the stuff of sound bites, I've always believed in standing firm and empowering others to make up their minds and come on board when they are ready. It's that mindset that gets community centres and nurseries built, and increasingly defends them from closure by this government that's so destructive of so much of our community facilities all over the country. It's the mindset that negotiates hard for a better conditions at the workplace. It's the mindset that serves the many, not the few. For many years, I couldn't see much beyond how so many political leaders manipulated us, while giving in again and again to powerful vested interests. I did not want to be like that. And it wasn't clear to me there could be another way. But I've learned there is. Whereas insecure leaders want to feel stronger by asking you to give them more power, I recognise strong leadership as equipping you with more power.